From Vermont Public, this is The Frequency. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. It's Thursday, February 1st, and here are today's headlines. The Vermont Medical Society is urging lawmakers to pass legislation mandating Medicaid to cover the cost of weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy. Dr. Ashley Miller is a pediatrician in South Royalton and told lawmakers recently she's seen a dramatic increase in the number of young patients living with obesity. She says a new class of drugs known as GLP-1s offer an effective weight loss treatment, but she says she can't often prescribe them because they're not covered by Medicaid and some private insurers.
These kids, 12, 15, 17, if I can affect change now, I can help teach them better nutrition. I can help get them active. I can prevent mental health issues and hopefully in the long run decrease their total medical costs.
Legislation introduced in the Senate would require private insurers and Medicaid to cover the new weight loss drugs. State officials say the provision could add as much as $75 million annually to Medicaid drug costs. The Vermont Department of Health wants every K-12 school to add one more thing to their emergency kits: naloxone, the overdose reversal drug best known by its brand name, Narcan. So the state is sending the medication out to any school that requests it. Health officials say no one has died from an overdose at a school in Vermont yet, and that overdoses on school grounds remain rare, but they do happen. And outside the schoolhouse doors, Vermont is seeing a sharp rise in fatal overdoses. Deputy Health Commissioner Kelly Doherty says schools should keep naloxone on hand, the same way they do EpiPens and defibrillators.
It is a basic life-saving first aid supply that we think they should have available in the event that, something terrible happens in a school. We want to make sure that they're prepared.
Vermont is using funds from its legal settlements with opioid manufacturers to pay for the initiative. A rare fungal infection from the upper Midwest and Southeast is growing increasingly common in Vermont. That's according to a new study published by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Blastomycosis is caused by a fungus that lives in wet soil, decaying logs and leaves. Though most cases are mild, the disease can cause serious illness and death. NBC News reports public health professionals are debating whether they're seeing an increase in cases in Vermont or just detecting previously unknown cases. Patients get infected by inhaling blastomyces spores, though it's hard to diagnose the condition because it shares symptoms with other respiratory illnesses. Early voting for Vermont's presidential primary is now underway. Vermont Secretary of State Sarah Copeland-Hanzis says voters can request mail-in ballots from their town clerk or vote in person. She says a resident can choose to vote in either the Democratic or Republican primary, but they must declare which party's ballot they want. That information is then recorded on the local checklist.
We're hearing stories of mail delivery taking longer than it used to. You might need to think about how to get that ballot to you and get it back in time.
Copeland-Hanzis encourages Vermonters who want to vote by mail to request a ballot as soon as possible because of reported postal service delays in some communities. Vermont's primary is part of the Super Tuesday election on March 5th, when 15 states will select delegates. Coming up, getting to know the folks who tow. A Made Here documentary focuses on a couple whose business specializes in helping people escape the worst of winter weather in the Northeast Kingdom. That's after this.
The Frequency is sponsored by Vita. Since 1974, Vita has helped Vermont businesses grow and thrive. From agriculture to energy, startups to family companies, find solutions that fit your business. Visit VEDA.org to start your next chapter today. And the Vermont Lottery, which remains committed to contributing 100% of profits to the Education Fund, providing over $500 million total since 1999. Learn about the Educate and Innovate initiative at vtlottery.com.
Roland and Mary Dupree are just the people you want to see when you're stuck on the roadside in a snowbank in the Northeast Kingdom. They run Roland's wrecking service in St. Johnsbury, which bills itself online as fair, honest, and relatively inexpensive. A new documentary about the business called Roland and Mary, A Winter of Towing in the Northeast Kingdom, is the first entry in the 8th year of Vermont Public's local film series Made Here. It's streaming on our website and airing on Vermont Public's main TV channel tonight at 8. The documentary follows Roland and Mary as they navigate deep, heavy snow and impossibly stuck trucks. But it also brings the viewer into their lives, showing how they care for each other while facing serious health conditions. The man behind the documentary, Vermont filmmaker Dylan Tanner, spoke with my colleague, Mary Engish.
I, for one, love a film that starts out when the protagonist just drops an F-bomb right away. But what I didn't expect to see was like this really loving and caring relationship on screen between Roland and Mary. How did you meet, and what moved you to make a film about them?
We met because they literally gave me a tow. This was a few years ago, and I was living in a giant step van at the time, and this thing was very prone to breaking down. And one of those times I was in St. Johnsbury, we called around looking for, something, and one place quoted us maybe $300, and we were like, geez. And called another place, and they answered the phone like this. What do you want? But it was only $180, and we went with them. They rolled up on the scene and were just immediately interesting people.
Mm.
They were like throwing chains at each other, cursing each other out, but at the same time throwing in some I love yous. So I was captivated. They gave us a ride to the auto shop, and Roland, the owner of the business, was immediately just an open book and just started telling me stories about his truck running over him and catastrophes that he's been through in his work life. And they stuck in my head for a year. So a year later, I called him up and asked him if they would want to shoot a movie together.
Somebody actually just wrote in about the documentary. They know that it's going to be playing, right? And the listener comment says, I can't wait to see my hero and off-time rescuer, Mary, on TV. What do you think people in the Northeast Kingdom, why do you think they have like such affection for Mary and Roland?
The first thing is that they are far more affordable than all the other tow truck companies in the area. The other thing is that they've been doing it for 45 plus years. So they're absolutely staples in the area. And they're, I think, sort of known for legendary maneuvers. So Roland is known to, he'll haul a tiny house or a bulldozer. They're known to be the people that will pull through for you.
This is your first documentary, right?
Yep.
Well, how did you get into filmmaking to begin with?
I guess I started in high school because we had like a broadcast media program, and that was like my first foray into video, and found that I had a knack for it, and just kind of off and on kept up with it in college and throughout my 20s, just making short films. And
well, how did filming work for this particular film? Like, in order to get the shots that you wanted. And how did the subject matter here, like the wrecker service, navigating all the snow, impact how you shot the movie?
I guess I made some careful selections about my gear. Like I tried to get certain kind of gloves, like lobster claw gloves, so I could still like hold a camera and like press the record button. I got a camera that was like weatherproof. Yeah, just spent some time like picking out like clothes and gear and stuff, which Roland never-endingly made fun of me for. So I was constantly wrapped up in an insulated Dickies suit while he's just going out in like a loose jacket and thin pants every day.
Any like tone or feel in mind before you started filming, or did you just like go headlong into it?
I kind of thought the film would be more about the adventures that we would get into on the road and like the people we would meet and the world of the Northeast Kingdom. And while it is like that is the setting and the container, like when I tried to edit the footage that way, it just didn't coalesce into anything and didn't really turn into a story or something watchable at all until I made it about their relationship.
Ah, how cool. You were in the vehicles with Roland and sometimes with Mary on a number of these trips that some of them looked pretty intense, right? They have to report to go rescue somebody out of a jam. Did you ever hop out and grab a shovel to dig somebody out of a snowbank when they got stuck? Or were you just filming that whole time?
There was a few moments where I was forced to put the camera down. There's one scene where it's at night and there's like a kid that lives off-grid at the top of this goat path. And we got stuck so many times. And we were there for maybe 12 hours or something. And my camera batteries just ended up dying eventually. And what's in the movie is about like 1% of the adventure.
Okay. I have to say, as a viewer watching that particular portion of the documentary, I know my blood pressure went up just watching that because it was so intense.
I'm thankful that it still comes across because I was paranoid after shooting it that I hadn't, I had only captured maybe 2% of it.
Yeah, it made the viewer feel just how intense some of these calls are for Roland and Mary to go at whatever time of day or night and, help somebody out of a jam or a snowbank or whatever it is. Yeah. Well, what's next for you? Other films that are in the works?
My biggest project right now is running a monthly film festival in Burlington called Mothership Monthly Film Fest. I try to make something for that every month, whether that's a documentary or a short film. Yeah, next one is this Saturday.
That was host Mary Engish speaking with Dylan Tanner about the documentary Roland and Mary, A Winter of Towing in the Northeast Kingdom, which you can watch on our website, vermontpublic.org, or on Vermont Public's main television channel tonight at 8. Thanks for listening to The Frequency today. We had additional reporting from Peter Hirschfeld, Lolo Dufour, Adia Golston, and Bob Kinzel. Our executive producer is Kevin Trevelyan, and our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. Talk to you tomorrow.
Black perspectives haven't always been centered in the telling of America's story. Now, we're taking center stage. Introducing NPR's Black Stories, Black Truths, a collection of Black-led stories from NPR's podcasts. Search NPR Black Stories, Black Truths wherever you get your podcasts.